In this Tifa build, I'll show you how to always have Unbridled Strength active, increase its duration, plus have insane damage buff while it's going. Tifa is a stagger and physical damage god in Rebirth, and today we're going to maximize all of this in this build. Let's go! So y'all really liked my cloud build, so I decided to do more. I've got a really good idea for Aerith and Barret, so I might do one of those next if you let me know which one in the comments, but I probably won't do all the party members. So this build and Tifa in general really focuses on Unbridled Strength, right? So essentially what Unbridled Strength is it strengthens Tifa's basic attacks and increases combo count, and it also changes her triangle ability to Omni Strike and then Rise and Fall. You can actually track your chi level based on whether it's Omni Strike or Rise and Fall, but the main crux of this and having this active is the whole point in Tifa's kit, right? You want to maximize when Unbridled Strength is active to deal additional damage. Now, there's a couple of ways that we can do this. Firstly, in your actual skills, there's a skill called Martial Arts Mastery, which will increase its duration by 50%. And then as you get further down that line, there is a concentration skill, which will give you a 50% chance of entering combat with Unbridled Strength active. Now, we can actually combine this with the Kaiser Knuckles concentration weapon skill, which essentially gives you 100%. So it's always active at the start of combat. But then there's also other skills you can grab that are beneficial for this, right? Like Utterly Unbridled Strength, which increases attack power while Unbridled Strength is active, 5% at level 1 and 10% at level 2. And then you should also be grabbing the combo damage up, which just increases your basic grounded combo attacks by 3% overall damage. So essentially the focus for this build really is just on physical damage and dealing physical damage. Now, Tifa's also really good at staggering enemies because she has a lot of really quick attack animations. If you can pressure an enemy via whatever their pressured method is, like dealing with the right elemental type, etc., you'll be able to maximize that stagger potential and bring that stagger bar up and then actually stagger them, and then you can dump all of your high damage physical dealing attacks like Rise and Fall, like Omni Strike, even her limit, dive kick, overpower, all that great stuff to actually dump that damage into them. But there are other things about this build that really bring it together, and we'll cover those starting with Materia. So I like running the gravity Materia with Tifa. Now what this does is it will lower the enemy's HP, and this always hits as well. If you aren't playing as Tifa, you can set this up to auto cast. So essentially it reduces the enemy's HP by 25%, which for those high HP enemies, that's definitely a good thing to do. This comes from Chadley's Coral Region shop, and the ATB stagger is also great here because you're going to stagger enemies a lot, so getting that extra ATB to then recast Unbridled Strength or activate one of your skills as soon as you actually stagger enemies is really beneficial. This comes from Junon Region from Chadley. Now, other than this though, Materia isn't a huge part of this build, right? It really just revolves around Unbridled Strength, and those weapon skills is the key focus here. And for the most part in combat, you're probably not actually going to be playing as Tifa, right? For the purpose of this build and to showcase these things, I'm playing as Tifa essentially through most of this combat in this video, but for the most part, you're going to be playing as Cloud, like most people do. So really you want to be adding things like the auto unique ability Materia here, which will then allow Tifa to cast Unbridled Strength on her own when you're not playing as her. This comes from the Grasslands region from Chadley, and there's other ones as well, right? You can grab the auto weapon ability, so then she can cast things like dive kick, etc. on her own, which is also valuable. Plus, once you do get it, the chi trap, which is absolutely fantastic. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but then you can allow her to cast these things on her own to lower that whole micromanaging aspect of just having to cast everything for these characters. So equipment here, we touched on the Kaiser Knuckles, but that's the main weapon that you're going to use. They have great actual attack power, which is one of the main reasons we're using them, but it's also for that concentration weapon skill. So you've got 100% chance of actually having this activated at the start of combat, or even if you don't have the skill, then you've actually still got 50% just by using this weapon. Now this comes from chapter 5 during the boat section. I won't say anything else, but there's a little chest right here that you can actually go and grab it. And I'm also using wrist guards just for the extra strength and HP here. You can't really go wrong with having extra strength for extra attack power plus extra HP for Tifa is probably the best option. But the weapon abilities here, we've touched on most of them, like Overpower and Dive Kick, and obviously Unbridled Strength, which you will use heaps. But the Chi Trap is really, really good, which is something we haven't really touched on much. And essentially what this is you will spawn this orb essentially wherever you are standing. So make sure you're next to the target when you cast this. And this will more or less trap enemies inside it. And if you're hitting them as well as this damage over time effect going off, you're going to deal heaps of damage to them and build up that stagger bar very quickly because you're getting this like damage over time effect triggering. It's also AoE, so if there's multiple enemies in there, it'll actually trigger them as well. This is the weapon ability on the Tiger Fangs, which you get during chapter 9. Can't show you any of it because it's all spoiler stuff, but chapter 9 at like sort of the end of that is where you can get these. If you miss any of like the equipment, you know, you can actually buy it from vendors as well if you have actually gone past where you can actually get them for free. And then once you've mastered the ability, you can then switch back to the Kaiser Knuckles for those extra benefits you get from there. Some build tips for playing this build: use the AT up materia to level up your materias faster. Always do this for any of your characters and builds. Now you can actually add the elemental materia to Tifa if you want to deal some elemental damage here as well. I don't really think it's necessary if you're comboing Tifa with, you know, Aerith or Cloud and others that can actually hit those weakness types. And then the main reason you want to hit those weakness types is to pressure the enemy. And then if you can do that with one of the other characters, Tifa can focus on the physical aspects of her kit and using that. I'm also really a fan of the empowerment materia that I forgot to mention earlier. This will allow Tifa to cast bravery on herself, increasing your overall attack power. We already sort of know why that's important. Now, basically every single melee character would excel with my Cloud build, right? Like using the enemy skill Plasma Discharge, the elemental materia, the HP absorb materia, comboing all of these together. Now you can do this, right? Essentially, you can do this with all the melee characters, Tifa, Yuffie, etc. But the thing is like, then I'm just making the same video again. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to focus on like this specific thing for Tifa and what I'm doing. But like technically the best build is that enemy skill build and like the way you combo those skills together, right? But this is just something that's fun for Tifa that focuses on the strengths of her kit without just remaking the Cloud video again, because technically that is like the best build for all these melee characters. Now, if you're wondering what to pair with Tifa, like obviously you're going to use Cloud, but Barret or Aerith are both really good pairings because they have good synergy skills to pair with Tifa. Both have strong damage dealing skills, and Barret's one will actually increase the stagger timer. So that's really good, you know, because like obviously when enemies are stagger, they take more damage. So the longer you can have that effect active, it's better. And then Aerith's one is also good just to deal additional damage to enemies as well as get their limit levels up as well. So you've got lots of options with Tifa here. She does fit like a real melee DPS focused character, right? You want to be staggering enemies and then dumping all of her damage with those various attacks like dive kick, overpower, and then focus strike is also good that we haven't touched on that you can use to increase the stagger of enemies. But yeah, there isn't a whole lot to the Tifa build, right? It's mostly that, and then obviously using all of those auto materials so she can essentially run on her own. You sort of set and forget once you've got the auto materials that you can get from Chadley from those first couple of regions. You set them on her and then she'll just do all of these effects on her own. You can level her up, get the concentration effects, unbridled strength is active, and then it's just GG's from there. She'll deal heaps of damage. On Cloud, you can then just focus on staggering enemies, dealing damage, doing all that stuff, and then she'll just like follow up with those attacks on her own at any time that you do need. But let me know in the comments which one you would like me to do next. Let me know what you think about this build. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa, and I hope you have a great day.